Okay. Um, Today I am reading Black Wall Street and the Tulsa Race Massacre. Um, the creation and destruction of America's wealthiest African American neighborhood. This is the Charles River editors. So, random page. First, no, it's my first time reading this. So, introduction. In the wake of the Civil War, African Americans attained freedom from chattel slavery but continued to suffer discrimination, both legal in the form of Jim Crow laws and de facto in the continuing perception among the vast majority of white Americans that African Americans were, at very least, inferior. At that, at the most, a constant dangerous presence in the communities who must be carefully controlled in this way. Tulsa was no different than most cities in the region in the 1920s. Overall, Tulsa in 1921 was considered a modern, vibrant city. What had fueled this remarkable growth was oil, specifically the discovery of the Glen Pool oil field in 1905. Within 19, Within 5 years, Tulsa had grown from a royal crossroads town in the hmm, former Indian territory into a boomtown with more than 10,000 citizens. As the word spread of the fortunes that could be made in Tulsa, people of all races poured into the city. By 1920, the greater Tulsa area boasted a population of over 100,000. In turn, Tulsa residential neighborhoods were some of the most modern and stylish in the country, and the Tulsa Chamber of Commerce produced postcards and literature boasting of the virtues of life in the modern oil city. However, as a commission reports about the Tulsa riot later pointed out, what the pamphlets and the pictured postcards did not reveal was that despite the impressive new architect and increasing urban affections, Tulsa was deeply troubled town. As 1920 turned into 1921, the city would soon face a crossroads that, in the end, would change it forever. Tulsa was, in some ways, no one city but two. When they came to Tulsa, many blacks settled in the Greenwood area and established a thriving commercial, culture, and residential area. Of course, the segregation was forced on these residents, and while they had fled the worst condition of the Jim Crow South in other areas, they were not able to escape it completely. But in one way, Tulsa was different for African Americans. Black citizens of the city shared shared in the city's wealth, albeit not as equally as their white neighbors. The Greenwood District, a 36 square block section of northern Tulsa, was considered the wealthiest African American neighborhood in the country. Wow. Called the Black Wall Street because of the large number of affluent and professional residents. In 2001, final report of the Oklahoma Commission to study the Tulsa Race Report of 1921, historian John Hope Franklin and Scott Ellsworth described the Greenwood area that would be all but destroyed in one of America's most notorious riots. In less than 24 hours, nearly all Tulsa African Americans' residential district, some 40 square blocks in all, had been laid to waste, leaving 9,000 people homeless. Wow. Gone too was the city African Americans' commercial district, a thriving area located along Greenwood Avenue, which boosted some of the finest black-owned business in the Southwest. a Stratford hotel, a modern 54-room brick establishment which housed a drugstore, barbershop, restaurant, and a banquet hall, has been burnt to the ground. So had so had the Gurley Hotel, the Red Wing Hotel, and the Midway Hotel. Literally dozens of family-run businesses, from cafes and mom-and-pop grocery stores to the Dreamland Theater, the YMCA, cleaners, the East End Feed Store, and the Osborne Monroe roller rink, roller skating rink had also gone up in flames, taken with them the livelihood and in many cases the life savings of literal hundreds of people. The officer of the offices of two newspapers, the Tulsa Star and the Oklahoma Sun, had also been destroyed. Damn. As were the offices of more than a dozen doctors, dentists, lawyers, realtors, and other professionals. A United States Post Office substation was burnt as well was burnt as was the all-black Frisco Memorial Hospital. The brand new Booker T. Washington High School building escaped the torches of the rioters, but Dunbar Elementary School did not. Neither did more than half a dozen African American churches, including the newly constructed Mount Zion Baptist Church, an impressive brick tabernacle which had been dedicated only 7 weeks earlier. Wow. The death knell for Black Wall Street began on Memorial Day, May 31st, 1921. Around or after 4 o'clock p.m. that day, a clerk at Ringberg clothing store on the first floor of Drexel building in Tulsa heard a woman screaming. Turning in the direction of the scream, he saw a young black man running from the building, going to the elevator. The clerk found the white elevator operator, 17-year-old Sarah Page, crying and distraught. The clerk concluded that she had been assaulted by the black man he saw running a few moments earlier and called the police. Those facts are just about the only things about agree when it comes to the riot in Tulsa in 1921. By the time unrest ended, an unknown number of Tulsa black citizens were dead. Over 800 people were injured, and what had been the wealthiest black community in the United States had been laid to waste. In these days after the riot, a group formed to work on rebuilding the Greenwood neighborhood, which had been all but destroyed. The former mayor of Tulsa, Judge J. Martin, declared Tulsa can only redeem herself from the countrywide shame and humiliation into which she is today plunged by complete restitution and rehabilitation of destroyed black belt. The rest of the United States must know that the real citizenship of Tulsa weeps at that unspeakable crime and will make good the damage so far, and it can be done to the last penny. However, financial assistance will be slow in coming. A jury will find that black mobs were responsible for the damage, and not a single person were ever convicted as a result of the riot. Indeed, given that racial violence directed at blacks was the norm in the Jim Crow South, and accusations of black teens or adults violating young white girls were often accepted without evidence. People barely batted an eye at the damage wrought by the riot. Tragically, the decades following the riot saw the memory of it recede into the background. The Tulsa Tribune did not recognize the riot in its 15 years ago today, or 25 years ago today, features in 1971. The Tulsa Chamber of Commerce decided to commemorate the riot, but when they read the materials gathered by Ed Wheeler about the riot, they refused to publish any of it, and the Tulsa papers also refused to run Wheeler's story. He finally published an article in the black magazine Impact magazine, but most of the Tulsa white citizens never knew about it. It would not be too recently that a true accounting of the riot and its damage had been conducted, as the 100th anniversary of the massacre approaches in 2021. The city of Tulsa is still working to complete the historical record. Black Wall Street and the Tulsa Race Massacre, the creation and destruction of America's wealthiest African American neighborhoods, chronicles the rise and fall of Greenwood District, along with pictures depicting important people, places, and events. You will learn about Black Wall Street and the Tulsa Race Massacre like never before. Black Wall Street and the Tulsa Race Massacre, the creation and the destruction of America's wealthiest African American neighborhood. Before the rise of Black Wall Street, the historical quest for economic prosperity among non-white cultures in the United States was dealt a nearly unplayable hand from the country's founding. African Americans, who built much of the nation's infrastructure through its first century of existence, had no astral access to Western wealth, lived under a status sacredly above those ascribed to beasts of burden, and found new champions outside their own culture. A stolen and enslaved people efforts to demonstrate equal intelligence, worthiness of education, aspiration toward tangible success, and to strive to prosper was counterproductive to a white system dependent on the continued subjugation. The Emancipation granted by Lincoln Emancipation Proclamation signaled a technical status of freedom for the slave, but it did not in any sense guarantee social equality. After all, such a status lies beyond the power of legislation if the dominant culture would not tolerate or otherwise embrace the idea. Every pursuit of employment began with a racial disadvantage, and the Jim Crow laws in the South effectively resonated a constraint of much of the slaves' range of movement, opportunity, and right to civic participation. By the approach of 20th century, two strategies had come to the forefront for black advancement. Booker T. Washington advised a rise in the culture former slave status by developing a general usefulness in what would now be known as a blue-collar labor or basic agricultural skills. However, for W. Du Bois, the underlying equation of subservience was unaltered by his race moved from slave labor to poorly paid lackeys at the lowest levels of the white business. Du Bois exhorted the African Americans to stand and declared his right to prosperity. Education and status with economic system predisposed to shutting him down. Either way, positions of leadership in the time of the middle and upper tier wage earning was far off. However, in a phenom sanctly taught in the secondary education of the 21st century, African America gained its footing with a third approach that in development terms combined the Washington and Du Bois model. How you doing? I appreciate the stars. I thank you. How do you send stars? I don't know how they send stars really. Disheartened, I guess. I don't know. I just do it for the love, whatever God tells me to do. I wake up early. It is 5 o'clock here. So I don't how you send stars. But thank you for thinking of sending stars, though. I really appreciate it. Anybody know how to send stars? Go ahead and send stars. Heart it, like it, subscribe to the channel, Tru Hicks on YouTube. Dion's Life, that's my wife. She's on the YouTube as well. Is Dion, Dionnne apostrophe S Life. We just promote peace, love, unity, community, family, God. You know, that's what we do. You know? What time? Okay. I gotta get going. I gotta go stretch. I told myself I'm gonna be on here consistently. You know, giving myself the knowledge to just read and educate myself, and just trying to just put a good word out there. You know, let people see positivity. You know, more positivity that we see will be a good thing. So, as I say, go out there today, be you, be true to you. You know, put God in your heart. You know, and don't move with fear. Take fear out of the way. You know, and live righteously, live peacefully. And when you live righteously, you don't have to look over your shoulder. That's how I feel, y'all. So, it's 5 o'clock. So I gotta get going. Go ahead and handle some business for the day. So, until the next time, y'all. Peace. Peace.